Hi there, Theresa here from theresamonro.com, here with your energy update for the month of September 2019. For those of you that have been patiently waiting for this, thank you very much. We are filming this just on the other side of the 9-9 gateway. For those of you that know what that is, it is a gateway that happens every single year on the 9th of September. So it's the 9th day of the 9th month. And on some years, we have the 999 gateway. What that typically means is the year also adds up to a 9. So numerologically, it adds a little bit extra oomph to a regular 9-9 gateway. The 9-9 gateway is the ending of timelines that is not for us. So that particular day, you may have received some news on things. Some of it may have been disturbing. Walking into the 10th, I believe that there's been a different energy for a lot of us walking into that. So I know it definitely has a different feel this morning on the 10th as this is being filmed or recorded. I apologize for those of you that like to see my face every single month. Currently at the moment, I'm not able to film video, but I'm able to record for you. I have to wait until the timing is right and the energy is right for filming. I don't know that I've ever had to do one 10 days into the month, but I now realize this morning that they've asked me to wait until the 9-9 gateway was passed. And part of that is, when I wait with these, it's because I don't want you guys necessarily to pick up so much on the gnarly energy that's kind of been coming in. I know many people have been dealing with some difficult energies coming in, and that's because this is a very, very karmic month. It's a month where there tends to be endings for the entire year if something hasn't been, ended earlier in the year that was needing to. This is typically a month where that'll happen sometimes, but again, this is something that is divinely guided. It's something that we typically see coming and is something that's meant to happen. So this is a very karmic month, particularly around power and resetting power templates. And what does that mean? So this is also part of integrating the DNA upgrades that were afforded to us since the eclipses. So, excuse me. And I'll explain a lot around what that means. So power is a Blu-ray dynamic. Okay, this has to do with boundaries, personal power. This is also where your spiritual warriors come from. And we have original power templates that are in alignment with Father God and divine will and that sort of thing. But sometimes through the abuse of or the misuse of, free will, people will experience power in different ways, like the abuse of it or, lack of boundaries. And people currently at this time are finding their way around personal power in all kinds of ways, meaning they're meant to be resetting their power templates. And there are a particular set of strand of DNA specifically around each ray of light, and so those were the DNA upgrades afforded to us for all of the rays of light since the eclipses, and a large part of that was integrated in August. And some of you in the month of August saw some, and particularly like leading up to now, like a culmination point of, things that happened earlier in the year, especially over the past 6 months with this full moon coming up in 4 days. But anyway, with these DNA upgrades that have been coming, there's been divine intervention as well for people in ways that have not necessarily been comfortable, particularly if there's been any operating out of fear. Okay, fear is an opposite of. They're running off of, it's when a universal truth or a situation contradicts a subconscious belief, or fear can also come up in the form of like intuition, knowing something isn't good, like a warning, and that's something definitely worth listening to. Then there's also the fear that feels a lot like excitement. There's different kinds here, but this is largely resetting. It's resetting all those areas, but also largely resetting in the areas where fear has stopped us. And so what's beautiful about this month is we have the support of the blue, the violet, and the green rays of light. Of course, you always have a number of different rays coming through, but these are the aspects of God that are being worked on. So mainly the blue ray lessons around power, and then supported by the violet flame, which clears the karma around any of the blue ray issues and templates, and the green rays of light coming in for healing as well, because it's going to bring up a lot of these things end up traversing through they're calling it the karmic bridge, but it's the bridge of your heart area. Okay, so some people may feel wounds around that area through something called a heart wall at times, and it's something like, for those of you that do healing work, you may sense that at times, and it can look like different things or attract different things in your life, okay? So the beauty of this month and integrating the DNA upgrades, in these, and getting into a more comfortable place around the changes that have been made over the past month that may have afforded some, divine will and divine justice, you're going to end up seeing some shifts in your life for the better, particularly if you're able to go with the flow, which is something I definitely recommend. And those are also the rays of light I mentioned earlier would be best for meditating with. Even if you don't understand them, you'll start to notice the subtle differences. And I do work one-on-one if you'd like to know more about how to meditate with the rays of light for self-healing and for deep personal growth. And if you don't want to learn, just sign up for the 30 days of light, and that helps you. Okay. Now, you're part of what you're going to be seeing around things coming up this month, particularly around it being a karmic month, because what's happening is you have certain collectives that you see dealing with certain things around, especially group dynamics of power. And some of this is quite heavy, and so I'm trying to keep this light for you, because I know a lot of you have a number of things coming up right now from like your childhood, and you're just like needing something uplifting, but also at the same time wanting to give you some of the heavier examples so that you know what's happening, but at the same time, it's a delicate balance on my part, because I just sometimes want to give you an overview and say, listen, like, we're going to be looking at, how we use power in different ways within groups. Are we doing this through wounded ways or empowered ways? Are we doing it through a wounded way, calling it an empowered way, or is it truly an empowered way? And a way that you can tell without applying 1,000 labels to different things or condemning anything, because I feel like the world needs a judgment detox at this point. Watching your emotional reactions to things, within dynamics and of relationships of all kinds. And if it feels good or if it doesn't feel good, and if you find that you're finding what you're doing, because there's also boundaries come up around this Blu-ray set of DNA. And, by the way, for those of you that are wanting like assistance with this, I do have a distance healing for you if you want that. That's specifically for the month, and the link is down below for that. It's something new that I haven't ever done before in this way. But sometimes in these relationships and group dynamics, when you see somebody that's trying to, if you're finding yourself wanting, how can I word this? Power and control are not the same thing. That's what they're wanting to say. Control will come through fear. Power comes through allowance. There is an allowance spray. There is a personal power spray for Cleanse and Shield, like if you get the Cleanse and Shield spray and you want to work with that, or the Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine sprays. But they're just having me recommend these in case you guys are looking for options. But also looking at how you are using your own power. Are you using your power to take care of yourself? Because there's a number of people this month through their wounding and their childhood patterns coming up and things that they maybe haven't seen in years, really painful things. There's some stuff that's so private that people may retreat. And you may also have people that are sensitive retreating from being around people that are having a hard time with certain patterns coming up. And it isn't necessarily our job to describe what those patterns are. It's just, does this feel good or does this not feel good? Do I have the energy? Do I want to engage here or do I not want to engage here? All of that is in your power. How you're basically reacting to it a lot of times is in your power. And sometimes as empaths, if you're getting filled with the emotion of another, it can be difficult to keep a calm, centered reaction. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure for people to react. But if somebody is, I think it's more important that some people even speak up. But at the same time, if it is right for you to not respond at all, if it's right for you to take time for yourself, that's what you need to do, because loving yourself first is most important. It's the same thing they show me when you place the oxygen mask on your face before anybody else's. And if somebody's scrambling for your mask, you know, it's not a negative form of selfishness to say, no, this mask is for me. You have your own mask. So sometimes when this stuff is coming up where other people's stuff is you know, karmically coming up around power, and how they use that in their life or how you use it in your life, sometimes people will have old patterns coming up right now around that. And it's okay to, especially if you're empathic, to be like, no, I don't want to engage with that. And you don't even have to say anything if you don't want to. Again, how somebody reacts to that is not yours. That's all in our own power. And this is a month where I think, you know, August was tough for a lot of people, and it was a higher vibrational month, even though some people had some divine intervention come in. It's positive, and it's, you know, it's like they're showing me the Tower card and the Tarot. It's always something that's for our highest good, regardless of whether or not we can see it at the moment. That's when you want to hire an intuitive that can shift the perspective a little bit for you. Also, you know, we've talked about fear. We touched base on that, and they want to touch base on it again. Excuse me, I was particularly sick last month, so I've still got sinus drainage. You don't want to see me blowing my nose and all of that on film. So anyway, we have some rabbit energy here, and so the rabbit kind of warns of when your fears are allowing things to manifest, because there were some people last month that and recently who had the opportunity to have certain things come into their lives that were meant for them for quite some time, and through fear ended up manifesting the opposite, and that's been really unfortunate for if that's a situation around you know, another individual involved. But again, I hesitate to mention stuff like that because sometimes it's easy for a person to say something detrimental around that. But again, it's also important because they bring us to, you know, if you've had something to say, it's important to say it. And because there's, you know, Maya Angelou said, you know, there's really no agony like bearing an untold story inside of you. I think many of you have heard stories about that, like if there's a secret you've had to keep, or how you feel about someone, or something you've been meaning to say. And some of it, honestly, I felt like came up within the past 10 days or so and was said. I feel like some things resulted in early breakups for certain couples, and because I know over the past, like, oh my goodness, 2.5 weeks are showing me patterns of like preliminary breakups, and some people, I've had a number of friends call and say, oh my gosh, how do I how do I go back to this? Because I just, had this really overpowering emotional reaction, because the energy has been really intense. And some of these things were meant to break up and some of them were not, but there's been a large number that were preliminary, and it's like, listen, both of you are feeling the same way and want to get back together. It's just like, sometimes it's about acknowledging and having a little bit of feeling comfortable and vulnerability, going, oh my gosh, I said something I completely regret, and maybe we should get back together. I feel like a number of those over the past 3 days have already done that. People will know whether or not it's something they're meant to let go of or not. But again, the energy gets so intense. Some things were said that were meant to be said, and that's, it's okay. And there's still some people with a story inside of them that they're wanting to tell. But again, this is a good time to mention, I also have a 1 day a month where you receive free healing. So if you're on my email mailing list, you'll be able to receive that as, part of the monthly newsletter that goes out, or periodic emails that go out about like the energy and things like that. So, but there's at least one email a month that lets you know about the free healing, and the link is down below for that if you're interested in knowing what the rays of light are like. But it's just sent to you by distance, and there's no note sent to you or anything like that. But it's just something I provide as a service for some. Also, other patterns that are coming up. Yes, there's lots of epiphanies that are coming up this month. And what's interesting about right now with certain things manifesting with current energies, earlier in the year we had a number of other epiphanies and ideas and things like that. And right now what we're feeling are some epiphanies around, and they're more grounded, like it's more attainable now. Before it was a little bit more air energy earlier this year. They're sitting like during like more like Aquarius time frame. And I feel like it just wasn't able to, to manifest in the physical, but now, we've been able to anchor in more grounded energy because it's Virgo season. But again, we're about to head into Libra season, which tells me as well, because right now as I'm filming this, we have a few cardinal birds, and they're these beautiful birds here in Hawaii that are different from the regular cardinals you see on the mainland or back in the States. So they are red-headed, white-bodied, and their feathers are black. And these guys are amazing. And what they have been reminding me of is we have a number of planets and energy shifting into Libra. Libra's a cardinal sign. So sometimes the humor of these birds and the angels and things can be quite literal and punny. But what they're mentioning is around this particular energy. Boy, the angels have a lot to say. It's also a time for taking more action at the end of this week. At the time of this being filmed, it is the 10th on a Tuesday, so 11, 12, 13. So you're going to see, like, right around the full moon, you're going to see, some new energies coming up. And some time for change, because cardinal energy is around taking action. And I think some people are going to very much so welcome this energy. For those that are comfortable with Libra energy, it's going to be more balancing. This is also a time where people are feeling that they have more of a pressure cooker inside of them to take action. I promise that once you take some action, you're going to feel a lot better within yourself, and so will a lot of people around you. There's certain signs where this is very, very important. Because the last thing that we need is, people remaining in fear. And as we're moving forward, like in like the 80s and early 90s, certain people could like stay stuck in fear. But during these times, we as a collective have decided that we would move forward through some of the things that we're dealing with. There is support there for you. You don't have to do it by yourself. A lot of people have, like the Shekinah assisting with, returning to their divine self, or it's always been there. There's just been layers that are in the way. Saint Germain removing some of the karma, Jwal Kul coming in, providing joy, and moving from a path of karma into a path of dharma. And what that means is moving out of old cycles and into new cycles, which brings us Freya, because she's one of the ones that helps shift some of that out of the way. But these are kind of, the energies that we have present for us. And ever since like the 8th of August, we've been anchoring as well, new empowerment and a more compassionate consciousness. So for some, either what that means is you either have people that are headed towards more compassionate ways of being, or you have people that are finding, their tolerance around, harshness or judgment or things like that, or people looking at their own judgment patterns. So, these are the kinds of things that are available to us right now. And it's tough for some people around like the 9th of August for some, in that time, because that's when the blue ray energies come through. And that is the gateway for that particular ray of light, which means, and it's located in Iran, and it's called the Lion's Gate for a number of different reasons. Just like the 9/9 gate is completely different and brought in a completely different ray of light. And you have one each month. So like you have 1/1, 2/2, 3/3, meaning like the 3rd of March, the 4th of April. You have that 4/4, 5/5, 6/6. 7/7, 8/8, 9/9, 10/10, 11/11, and 12/12. These all have one particular ray of light that come in on those days, and it's a powerful time to sit in meditation. And sometimes, like on the 9th, it wasn't a particularly pleasurable thing. I just want to encourage you. You have the support to be able to do everything you want to do in life. Keep in mind, like, what work is yours, and sticking to that. It's not necessarily our job to determine what is other people's work. Let the professionals choose that if it's needed. Also, like, it's not entirely empowering if you're getting a reading to determine what other people's stuff is. There's sometimes that helps if somebody is intuitive and wanting confirmation, but again, if we're using it to like avoid inner work or to judge another, that's something different. But it's a delicate balance, and you need somebody with, like spiritual, with a more spiritual point of view to go and take a look at that. So you're going to see some interesting behaviors coming up this month. And again, it's a month where a lot of people are just kind of sticking to themselves, and if that's something you need to do, that is absolutely okay. And if this is something that's resonating for you, please click down below. If you'd like the free healing, please click the link below for the mailing list, for joining the email list. And also, if you would like to receive the healing, that is down below as well for this month. That helps you with everything that everything that we are going through. It assists for, even though you may sign up on the 29th, it'll help heal. It goes backwards or forwards, whatever you're needing at that particular moment. Okay, so wonderful. You are supported by the rays of light and the divine beings of light. It is a pleasure to be able to provide this insight for you. And if this resonates, please give it a like, please subscribe, and feel free to share with others. Wishing you the best.